Happy Red and White Day. I see lots of red and white in the audience, so clearly you got the message. I'm Ray Jayawardena. I'm the Dean of York's Faculty of Science, and I'll be serving as your host and moderator for the next hour or so. It's a great pleasure to welcome all of you to this very special event, President Mamadou Shoukri's last lecture, with quotes. Now I'm sure it won't, the quotes are because I'm sure it won't be literally the last lecture that President Shoukri gives, but it may well be the last lecture that he delivers as President and Vice Chancellor of York University here on campus. So for those of you who might not know, the concept of a last lecture was introduced by a Carnegie Mellon professor named Randy Pausch, who delivered a last lecture in 2008 entitled Really Achieving Your Childhood Dreams. It was quite a touching and remarkable moment because he was doing that after being diagnosed with a terminal illness. Since that time, the concept of the last lecture has been adopted and modified and used in a number of settings, including at academic institutions in North America. The format is relatively similar, and the idea is for the lecturer to prepare a talk on a subject that is meaningful to them, that's important to them, and speak about in a way that would be inspiring. And the inspiration often derived from the prompt, if you were to give your last lecture, what would it be about? What would you say? So that's the prompt that encourages an inspiring lecture to be delivered. Given that Dr. Shoukri is approaching the end of his tenure here at York as president, it's a wonderful opportunity to hear directly from him and to celebrate a decade of impactful leadership. A few details about Professor Shoukri. Born in Cairo, Egypt, he came to Canada as an international graduate student of engineering in the 1970s. And he began his academic career at McMaster University, serving in administrative leadership positions at all levels, from graduate program director, department chair, dean, and vice president. During his term as Dean of Engineering at McMaster, the faculty enjoyed significant growth, leading it to McMaster Engineering to become one of the leading engineering schools in the country. And under his leadership as Vice President, Research and International at McMaster, the university was designated as the Research University of the Year. He was also responsible for creating and implementing a vision for McMaster Innovation Park, which has become a major hub of innovation and a catalyst for the region's economic recovery. Prior to joining McMaster, he also held progressive roles in the research division of Ontario Hydro, where he was responsible for industrial research. On July 1, 2007, he left McMaster to become the 7th President and Vice Chancellor of York University. A champion of innovation, Dr. Shoukri has helped guide York's transformation into a more comprehensive and research-intensive university. Among his many achievements as president are the establishment of the Lassonde School of Engineering and a number of major capital projects, including the new Life Sciences building, the Glendon Center for Excellence, the Osgood Hall expansion, the CIBC Para-Pan Am Stadium, and a new home for the Lassonde School, the Bergeron Center, and also something we're very, very excited about, the arrival of the subway to York University anytime this year. He's of course also overseen the advancement of York's internationalization and social innovation agendas as we plan for future growth in the Markham campus as well as here and at Glendon. Dr. Shoukri serves on a number of boards, including the Ministry of Industry's Space Advisory Board, the Board of Directors of Universities Canada, and Laurent Scholars Foundation, and he was a founding board member of Ontario Centres of Excellence and a member of the Ontario Research and Innovation Council. For his numerous contributions to the flourishing of Ontario's academic institutions, both as an engineer and as an administrator, Dr. Shoukri was named as a member of the Order of Canada and of the Order of Ontario back in 2013. And with that, it is my great pleasure and honor to welcome President and Vice Chancellor Mamadou Shoukri to the podium.
I'll be First, thank you very much, Ray, for hosting this event and also for the incredible introduction. But I don't promise anything inspiring. I only promise that I will share with you some of my thoughts. Thank you all for being here. Obviously, everybody keeps reminding me that my last day as president of York University will be June 30th, 2017. And really, it is interesting because when you complete a job, or you are at the end of your term in a job like this, it gives you great opportunities for reflection. You reflect on the work you have done, the challenges you have faced, the lessons you have learned, but most importantly, the incredible people you've had the opportunity to meet and work with. But for me, really, June 30th is not only my last day on the job at York University. It is also the end of the latest chapter of a long career in which I have been associated with post-secondary education. So I find myself looking back not only on the last decade at York, but also on the decades of dynamic change that the post-secondary education sector has experienced, and while I was part of it. So the Dean went through a very long sort of professional background that it made it clear that I have been around for a very, very long time. And now, unfortunately, there's actually photographic evidence of me wearing plaid bell bottoms in the early 70s as graduate students. So there's no point in trying to challenge the fact that I have been around for a very long time. In other words, look at it positively. I've been around for a long enough time to be able to claim that I can give advice to younger people. So I'm here to have because it's an opportunity to share with you some of the things I have learned in my career, and in fact share with you some of my thoughts about the past and how I see it in the future. First, let me address the students who are here in particular and say to them that I really believe you are in the right place. Today, possibly more than ever before, universities are urgently needed by society. We live in an age of information and innovation. We are literally inundated with information. This is the defining aspect of the new global knowledge economy. Our students today spend almost every waking hour attached to some information generating device or information disseminating device. Their cell phones, iPads, computers, you name it. And they are tweeting, texting, and Snapchatting. Now, with all of that information, it is the role of education to help us interpret and give meaning to all of this flood of information. We are living in a global context where over the last quarter century, the university has become a central player, a world increasingly being driven and shaped by knowledge and information, innovation and technology, and with the advent of the internet, the proliferation and sharing of ideas. For our students, this means that you are making an excellent investment by being in a university, preparing yourselves for careers that will be complex and constantly evolving. For our faculty and staff, your work supporting, teaching, and mentoring students is more important today than has ever before. In this new knowledge economy, boundaries are falling away, and the university of the 21st century must change to keep pace. If the knowledge economy is global, our universities must be so as well. Now, let me move to something really I feel very strongly about, and I wanted to make sure that it is part of my message. When I think about what I wanted to say today, I kept coming back to two qualities that I have observed are present in anyone, in any role or context which enable that person to be successful. In fact, it is amazingly predictable. These two qualities seem to be predictive elements of success, and not simply in terms of financial success or material success. But I think these are even more important, that these two qualities that I'm referring to, for me, is even more important and central to what I have seen among those who have been successful. These qualities are integrity and empathy. So out of all important human characteristics, why did I choose those? First, integrity. Obviously, integrity implies consistently acting on the basis of clear moral and ethical principles, irrespective of the circumstances one is subject to. There are a number of reasons integrity is needed in our current political and global context. It can be used to address increasingly polarized political viewpoints. Leaders with integrity can shape the future of our societies by changing the conversations we see taking place today that conflicts with important principles that we believe in, such as equality, diversity, and inclusion. Integrity leads to trust. I have observed that people listen to you, no matter who you are, if you are sincere, if you care, if you walk the talk. I have learned a lot about leadership through my own experience being mentored by others, by people who trained and trusted me and gave me the opportunity to succeed. I have also learned about leadership through mentoring and supporting others. And in the many challenging situations we may experience throughout our careers, I have found that it is the actions that are based on clear principles that make a difference. So my advice to our students is to remember that your career is shaped by the extent to which people trust you, and you are trusted when you project integrity. Which leads me to the second quality, empathy. I see empathy as that ability to put yourself in other people's shoes. I believe empathy was essential in breaking down many barriers in the world during my lifetime. And it is most essential tool for understanding and thriving in a context of constant change. By the same token, it is lack of empathy that is threatening these achievements with the growing polarization we are seeing in the world. Empathy provides valuable insight into others, which allows us to adapt our behavior to be able to offer what is most needed in any given situation. In my view, these qualities are essential for our students, the next generation of leaders, to develop. And while I know I am biased, I think there is no doubt in my mind that York University is a great place to develop these qualities. Since our founding, York has been known not only for a unique interdisciplinary approach to teaching and research, but also for a commitment to social justice and to bettering our communities. We are proud of this heritage, and rightly so. But this is a feature of York University that needs continuous nurturing and protection. I have seen firsthand how even at York, this has been threatened at times. So now that we have established that these traits are essential, how do we ensure that they are cultivated and become pillars of society and of social progress? I have been a lifelong advocate of the value of broad-based education, an education that includes social sciences, the arts, and humanities. Why say that? Because before we can move forward, we must look backward. We do this by studying history, anthropology, poetry, theater, and philosophy. We need innovation and technology, but we also need interpretation and argumentation. Think for a moment about some of the real challenges that are facing the world. The need for reconciliation and inclusion, access to food and health care in third world countries, pollution and climate change, gender inequality, and political and ethnic conflicts. These are the issues that universities are tackling today. How do we end inequality? How do we fight intolerance and hate? This is why the best environment for learning is a university where broad education is a common feature. Our goal must be to educate our students to be experts in their field, but also to be aware that their field is part of a much broader and wider world. I believe we have most of technology and the scientific knowledge, and that will enable us to solve many of these challenging issues. If you look at the progress in scientific knowledge and the advancements that have taken place in the last 50 years and project what's going to be like 50 years from now, you know we will continue to produce new knowledge at a faster rate, and hence we are likely to be able to address most of the scientific and basic issues associated with some of these challenges. But what is lacking most of the time is the link between the science and the action. It takes the knowledge and understanding provided by studying the humanities and social sciences to put that scientific solution into action, and most importantly, put it into context. The whole of higher education is about more than simply driving economic growth. Universities enable societies to ask the big questions, to search for meaning and understanding, to be curious and skeptical, and to disagree. We know that literature can teach us many things, but perhaps one of the most important, as studies have increasingly shown, is empathy, the ability to imagine the world through the eyes of other people. Well, since this is the last lecture, it's also kind of final reckoning, a way to look back and measure how one did. So let me close by sharing a few thoughts on my time as president and on the kind of president I have tried to be. And let me start by admitting that, like Barack Obama, my hair definitely became grayer during some of the more challenging moments at York University. I have been a president who wanted to move York closer to its destiny, a future that has been planned since our first years as a university. I have a campus plan dated 1963 that shows the plans for Faculty of Engineering, a medical school, and significantly diversified science offerings. In other words, a much more comprehensive university than the one I came to 10 years ago. Today, our student body has grown. York is the choice of significant number of children of first-generation Canadians, of students who are first in their families to go to university. Our campuses are remarkably diverse. This is one of our greatest strengths. And now, thanks to a number of events coming together, the subway, the Markham campus, the opening of the Hyderabad and Costa Rica campuses, a new student center, new stadium, new programs. Thanks to all of that, increasing success of our research in securing funding and securing opportunity, increasing success of our graduates from undergraduate programs as well as graduate programs. I can go on and on about all of these things that seems to be happening now at the same time. I believe at this point we are closer than ever to achieving the university's founding vision of academic and research excellence, local and global impact, and we are poised to take an even greater role in the Canadian higher education landscape. And finally, I have been a president who has cared deeply for this institution and particularly for the people in it, and who recognized that York's distinct challenges were also its strength: our diversity, our location, our size, and our complexity. So in closing, let me say that it has been truly an honor to provide leadership to this great institution for a decade. I often say that I did not set out to be a university president, indeed far from it. But my path from engineer to professor to university administrator was shaped by encounters with people of great integrity and empathy. And that is the power of those qualities. They can change someone's life, inspire them to take a different path, or to take a risk and try something outside their comfort zone. And in my case, it does feel like all the various experiences were in some way preparation for me to be a president of this great institution. Well, let me say, I recently shared my views or a vision. I was asked about the vision for Canada 50 years from now. I really believe that our future depends on how successfully we will embrace our diversity and polarity in the long run. I would like Canada to take a more prominent role in shaping how the world is going to be in 50 years. From the environment and climate change to social innovation, immigration and refugees, to the global economy, we need a world that is cohesive and inclusive, and we need young people who are committed to these objectives. In describing the Canada I love in my installation speech, I quoted Bill Clinton. 10 years later, today, I believe that what he said is even more relevant today than it was 10 years ago. So let me quote him. In a world darkened by ethnic conflicts that tear nations apart, Canada stands as a model of how people of different cultures can live and work together in peace, prosperity, and mutual respect. This is the Canada we all want. This is the Canada that Bill Clinton talked about. This is the Canada that I referred to 10 years ago, and this is the same Canada that I worry sometimes these days about a threat to. When I began my term as a president, I saw a university with so much potential. 10 years later, I am excited about the direction we are headed in and with the progress we have made. Our plans have been to make York a model for a progressive university in the 21st century, and we are well on our way to reaching that goal. We continue to build on York's traditional areas of strength, the humanities, social sciences, business, fine arts, and law. But we have also grown in areas that match societal need: science, applied sciences, engineering, health, and so on. I began these remarks by saying that you, our students, and my colleagues, you are in the right place. I also feel I have been very fortunate to be in the right place in the right time. With the pace of change, and if nearly 50 years since I received my first university degree, any indicator, I believe you will see incredible change. The important part is not to be only part of the change, but to help make that change. So embrace the change that you are most definitely will witness, and hopefully you will create. And continue to ensure that York lives up to its reputation as Canada's most progressive university, a place with some of the most dedicated, innovative, and talented people. Thank you.